All right, what's going on, guys? We are now live. So today, I want to talk about something that a lot of you maybe have looked into before, or have even incorporate in your training, and that is talking about different types of warm-ups. Specifically, I'm going to talk about static stretching and dynamic stretching or dynamic warm-ups. Um, and I just wanted to look into this more because I've always been told, or I've heard a lot. You should stretch because it prevents injury, or you should stretch like for this reason or that reason. Just just been told to stretch for just many different reasons. I just wanted to look more into it and kind of find out for myself, like what are actually some of the scientific findings, or some of the benefits or negatives of stretching. So the two types I'm gonna talk about are, again, static stretching and dynamic stretching. And this is a Q&A where it's going to be a shorter type Q&A, just a one-page summary of kind of my findings through research and looking at different studies. All the references are in the description if you guys want to look into any of them for yourself, or just kind of yeah, just kind of find more information about it. So to define what static stretching is compared to dynamic stretching, static stretching is basically any type of stretching that involves holding a position for an extended, for not extended, like a short period of time. So one of the studies I looked at, they tested their subjects with 4 sets of 90-second holds of like a hamstring stretch, so just like basically touching your toes, or compared to dynamic stretching, which is basically doing more active movements that might mimic the exercise or workout that you're going to do after the stretch. So it's more of a movement-based stretch, where static stretching is basically just like sitting or standing and just holding a position for a certain amount of time. So multiple I'm going to talk about like some of the studies I looked at. So one of the ones I looked at that was really good was a review, and it looked at multiple different studies. So I just want to kind of get into that. And not just that study, but multiple studies tested static and dynamic stretching. However, more tested static stretching with strength, power. I'm gonna have it written here, with strength, power, and performance compared to dynamic stretching. So more of what I'm going to talk about, or more of the results I'm going to talk about, are how static stretching has affected it. And it just seemed like there wasn't as much there wasn't as much evidence to dynamic, and how dynamic might actually increase performance, rather than actually just how static stretching decreases performance and strength, if that makes sense. So another thing I looked into was the injury prevention part of it. So I've heard it thrown around before that stretching could actually help prevent injury. And there wasn't, actually, from the review I looked at and some other studies, there wasn't actually anything that said, or there hasn't been any actual solid scientific based evidence that has suggested that stretching actually prevents any kind of injury. And a reason for this is because it's hard to find subjects who would be willing to actually take part in a full study, to the extent where they'd actually become injured by the end of the study. So, in terms of like having them being tested with a type of stretch and then having to do something until like their muscle tears or something, like it's hard to find subjects who would actually last the duration of that type of study. So, yeah, that's just kind of an interesting point I found about injury prevention and stretching. There's like a longer theory about it that I could talk about in another video, but just basically there hasn't been any solid evidence that stretching actually prevents injury. So yeah, to talk about the review that I looked into. So this review had a lot of good information in it. I think it's the first link in the references if you guys want to check it out. But they referenced over 30 studies total on how static versus dynamic stretching affected things like strength loss, performance, or power loss, and yeah, I think those were the two main things I looked at. But with with about 20 of the 30 studies that they referenced, static stretching was incorporated more with strength loss and power loss compared to dynamic. And the strength loss ranged anywhere from 6% loss to 28% loss, and 12 out of those 20 that tested static stretching with strength loss also tested power loss, and 12 out of those 20 also found a power loss. Whereas in the dynamic stretching studies that they cited, there was less amount of studies that actually cited dynamic stretching, but of the ones that cited or that tested dynamic stretching with static stretching, um, four there was a 4% decrease in strength in one of the studies, a 9% increase in power in one of the studies, a 15% increase in strength in one of the studies. One also found 0% power gain, and then another one found a 9% power increase. So overall, the dynamic stretching groups in the studies that tested dynamic with static or just dynamic by itself, overall showed more of an increase in strength and power compared to the static. But however, there's a lot smaller. There's less studies that actually tested dynamic stretching with static stretching. So because of that, it's kind of hard to kind of conclude anything from that, or conclude anything from any of this overall. But again, like I said, with the studies that I was looking at, and from what I read, that there hasn't been as much solid evidence of dynamic stretching actually showing increases in strength or power. It's just more that static stretching has been shown to decrease strength and power compared to dynamic stretching. So it's not that that dynamic is better in the sense that it's going to help you perform better or have or increase your strength or power, even though it has been shown to in some studies. It's just that that static stretching has been shown more or less to decrease strength and power output. And that seems to be overall because static stretching, well, I'm just going to read like a kind of like conclusion I came from reading the review and also some of the other studies I looked at. So overall, static stretching showed to decrease muscle strength and power more than dynamic stretching. However, like I said, there were more studies that actually tested static stretching compared to dynamic stretching. But a reason for this, and this was actually talked about in multiple studies, is that static stretching actually it relaxes the muscle too much. So because of that, this was suggested that there was an over relaxation of the muscle from static stretching, and the theory is that your ability to store and release energy is decreased because the muscle is too relaxed. So whereas dynamic stretching, there's an increased range of motion of the joints, which may allow for increased force output. However, again, this hasn't been shown or proven to be a benefit of dynamic stretching. It's just been more or less shown that static stretching is can lead to decrease in strength and power. Miran asked, did you get your first dunk after squatting a certain weight or just a combination of workouts? Also, I can't find Flight Right anywhere. Can you link it? So Miran, I didn't get my first. I mean, I didn't correlate or get my first dunk from squatting a certain amount of weight. I just did that Flight Right program that you mentioned for 7 months, and then that's when I got my first dunk. But I mean, I could link the Flight Right program, but I did see that it was taken off the App Store for some reason. I don't know if it was because he didn't update it or what it was, but I mean, I can link you to his web. Have you looked at his website? Because I mean, that's the only link I know of that can actually link you to the Flight Right program is his website, and I think you'd have to pay for it through that now. But I haven't looked in. I haven't seen any new app or anything that he's put out that's similar to the Flight Right program. I mean, if you want to find like exercises that he's done or that are kind of similar to the Flight Right program, you could look at his YouTube channel. He has some of the workouts on there, but the full program in terms of like the app, I haven't seen it on the App Store. Because somebody else asked me about that too, was the Flight Right program and like where you could find the app because it's not on the App Store anymore. But yeah, so that was just basically a summary. That's just the Q&A I wanted to do today. I just wanted to talk about a little bit about warm up static versus dynamic stretching and how there hasn't really been any solid evidence to show that stretching can prevent injury, and it might be better to do static stretching after like after your workout or on off days compared to dynamic, where you could actually incorporate dynamic into your warm up and do those to activate the muscles to warm up the joints and actually mimic the movements that you're going to do, so that way your body's more prepared to actually do those movements that you're going to do in your workouts or jumping. And Miran said, no, I couldn't find it at all. Was it mostly plyometrics? So it was a lot of body weight plyometrics at the beginning, a lot of body weight movements, and then it progressively there was weight progressively added as the program went on. So it wasn't just all plyometrics. There was weight added later on in the program. The thing I didn't like about it though, Miran, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but is that the amount of volume that those workouts consisted of, I felt like was kind of high to work on just work on your vertical. I mean, I guess if you haven't done any type of training before, it could help. It could definitely help in terms of like, building a foundation and kind of preparing your body for what you're going to do later on in terms of increasing your vertical or just explosiveness in general. But I just found the volume was kind of high. Like some of the exercises had like 25 reps, like 5 sets of 25, like something like that. Yeah, anytime. But yeah, I could link the website for you if you want to. I actually think it's just flightright.com if you want to check it out. But let's see, flight. Oh, I don't even see his I don't even see his website on here anymore. Yeah, he might have taken down everything. Um, I'm not sure why. But if I find that link, yeah, I don't see it anywhere in here. Yeah, Moran, if oh, I got the name right. Cool. If I find it, I will I'll put it in I'll put the link in another Q&A if you're ever in these Q&As again, but yeah, I don't even see his website up there anymore. It's kind of weird. I don't know if he just got rid of the whole program or what, but yeah, like I said, if I find it, I'll link it into the next Q&A if you're watching. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about with this Q&A. If you guys ever want to see like a summary of these Q&As, you could go on my Instagram at LikeMikeBarrins, and I post like a summary of the Q&A with like the key points that I talked about in the video or that you guys asked me during the Q&A. And then tomorrow, like the Friday Q&As, this Q&A that I did just now or that I do once throughout the week are just kind of additional to the Friday ones I do, just to kind of like pick a topic, look more into it, and then talk about it more. But yeah, tomorrow's Q&A will be a little longer, just answering questions from the week and getting your guys' questions live too. So if you guys want to check out that Q&A, it'll be tomorrow around 6 p.m. Eastern time. And Moran said it's all good. I'm just really close to putting my first dunk down, so looking for a program perhaps to get me there. Thanks, bro. Anytime. But Moran, if you're honestly that close, I don't know if flight right, I mean it could help you, but honestly just continuing to reach for something that's a little bit higher than the rim might honestly be all you need to do to get those last couple inches to get your first dunk down. I feel like flight right is a great program if you haven't done anything yet for jumping, or if you're just getting started with wanting to start to increase your vertical. So yeah, but I mean, if you're that close, just keep going for it. Yeah, I'm gonna end this Q&A here. I want to thank you guys for watching. And again, I'll do another Q&A tomorrow. I'm also gonna be posting. I'm probably gonna do a low rim dunk session outside because I was asked to do one of those. I've been asked to do those a couple times actually, so I might do one of those for the next dunk session. I'm gonna do a workout today, record that, post that. So yeah, those are gonna be some of the videos coming up. But again, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys later.